Ben Wallace is stepping down as Defence Secretary after 4 years at the helm.
Yes, he served under 3 prime ministers. Wallace has overseen Britain's withdrawal from Afghanistan and our role in the latest conflict in Europe since the Second World War.
But it does represent another Conservative MP abandoning ship, doesn't it? That's going to be a concern. He's a big star. Let's talk to the local government editor for Conservative Home, Harry Phibbs. Good to see you this morning, Harry. How problematic is this? That this is someone, it's not just another person going, but it's actually someone the PM can rely on. He's seen as a solid figure, one of the grown-ups in the room.
Oh, yes, and he's somebody, we have polling in Conservative Home among Conservative Party members, and he always polls very high. He's right. He was always right at the top. So he's a big name, a big beast, and yes, he's standing down, and that will be a blow. I must say that I don't blame him. Obviously, being Defence Secretary in the last couple of years has been a pretty intense job, and I think the tribute that we should pay to him is that he's actually made a difference. A lot of ministers would sort of come and go and wouldn't really make much difference, whereas Ben Wallace was absolutely crucial before Russia invaded Ukraine in getting the supplies and the training to the Ukrainians in those weeks and months beforehand. And a lot of the establishment in the Ministry of Defence, the securocrats as they were dubbed, were actually pushing against that. And of course the other countries around the world were much slower than us to help the Ukrainians. And history could well have been different if Ben Wallace hadn't been pushing for that and hadn't persuaded Boris Johnson to support that at those early stages. It would have been far harder for the Ukrainians to withstand the Russian invasion when it first happened.
Harry, what do you think has brought this about? I mean, in the statement, Mr Wallace said he is stepping aside because this has taken a toll on his family, as you say. He has been a solid figure throughout huge events, such as the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Of course, you can accept that, can't you? Do you think any of this is a reflection of what Mr Wallace thinks of Mr Sunak's leadership?
I honestly don't. I mean, I think that Ben Wallace was so focused on getting that help to the Ukrainians that if you think about it, while he's been getting on with that, we've had Boris Johnson, then we had Liz Truss, then we had Rishi Sunak, and I think that they've given him the authority to get on with it and provide what help we can. And I don't think he's the sort of character who would be too much involved in plotting or whatever. I mean, I think he was disappointed about not being made the Secretary General of NATO, but Rishi Sunak was giving him full support for that. That was an international problem, wasn't it, with Joe Biden and some other countries not supporting him. So, you know, that will be a disappointment. But as I say, I think more important really than what sort of title he's got is that he was able to make absolutely crucial, historic difference. And there's very few ministers who can say that. I mean, there's Nick Gibb, for example, the schools minister, who did some work on phonics, which has meant that children are better able to read. You know, you can have one or two examples. Obviously, Boris Johnson can share the credit over Ukraine for the early support. But the vast majority of ministers and cabinet ministers, they would find it hard to look back on anything of real significance that they achieved.